Well, actually, it's kind of eased off a little bit. July, middle of June, July, mostly August. A lot of the kids are are away doing vacations or whatever they do, summer camps and such. So I don't see them. And then the school year picks up, and then suddenly I'm flooded with a bunch of piano lessons that I run around and teach. I go to people's homes and teach children and adults how to figure out where middle C is. And I've been doing that now since about '09. What happened for me, there was a major change up. You probably remember when my father passed away. And one of the things Dad was always pressing me to do, he says, you really ought to be in teaching. You're really more of a teacher than you are anything else. Which at the time I was doing full-time jewelry, so it was kind of a wet towel on everything for a bit. But once I kind of bore down and started working at it, I hadn't really played the piano a whole lot for a couple of decades. So I got an electric piano, and then I just did hand, which is basically exercises. You know, it's like aerobics for the fingers, and I did that for like 6 months, and then I got a hold of a primer on teaching children piano, and I did a lot of research. I went down to a local music store and talked to the folks down there, and after listening to what other piano teachers in the area are doing, I just got this technique of going to other people's homes rather than coming to my house, although I did test that out once or twice. But the liability around here, people are very they're into suing each other here in the United States. So what I do is I remove my liability and go to their house. So
that makes sense. Yeah, I get it.
Makes things a little bit easier that way. And over the years, my sister actually has a degree in music. So I've been tapping her shoulder periodically and saying, okay, I've got this situation. What do you think? And she's actually steered me in a really good direction. I do the same thing with a bunch of other teachers. I ask a lot of questions. And I've now, since it's been 16, 17 years or something like that I've been doing this again, because I was teaching. One of the first jobs I ever had when I was 18 was teach piano. And I realized that I didn't have a handle on it. And then I tried it again shortly after you moved to Taiwan. A friend of mine who owned a Montessori school asked if I would be interested in, teaching some of the students there because they had a piano. So I started getting my chops up at that point. And I had fully intended when I moved to Virginia to do that here, but Tony, my lady, did not want to have a piano in the house. It was not something she wanted. So that just kind of fell off. And there was kind of a skirmish when I finally brought a piano in after, living with her for 18 years. And
what was the deal on that, though? What was the deal? What was the deal on that? Why wasn't she into the piano?
Oh, well, apparently, I think it's an association. There's kind of a twisted view of what a piano teacher is supposed to be, and their position.
It wasn't about the piano. It was about the teaching piano.
It was a combination of a bunch of different things. She actually knew a number of pianists because at one point she was in a rock band, and all the people who played the piano were kind of weird to her. And she didn't particularly like having to listen to someone practice because the sound was relatively irritating. So when I got the piano that I did, it came with headphones, so she didn't have to hear it. And I moved it into my office so she didn't have to see it. And things really changed a lot. Right towards the end of her life, I finally convinced her to come watch a piano recital. And that changed everything. Once she realized that all the kids that got up and played were people who learned how to play because I taught them how to do it, it just changed everything for her. So then she was very enthusiastic. Oh, we lost your voice. Unfortunately, I'm not good at lip reading, so I don't know what you just said. There we go.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still learning about this software. So what I was going to say is that one of my fond memories is watching that video you had of your students playing at the recital. That was, I don't know, it's probably like 4 years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was just, I looked at that, I just went, I know, I taught English here in Taiwan, and I know how teaching is. I mean, I have children, I know how that goes. And I was just so proud of you, what you did. I mean, what you're doing, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, now you're telling me, but it was just at that moment in time, I just went, and I know your trip, you'd rather be doing jewelry. and so you're doing that. And, I just saw these young people. It was just so cute. I just loved it. Yeah.
Well, I have grown to really love teaching piano. And like I said, it's something I've done off and on my whole life. And there is a sense of satisfaction to see them get up and do the recital like that. That's fine. But when you're right in the throes of watching somebody, and since you've taught yourself, that moment when you see the light go on is amazing for me. And I also, it's not just pushing the keys. We talk about the history of music, who did what, why different musical breakthroughs and cultures occurred. For example, when we go into it, why it is that the conflict between the French and the German in the early 20th century, or that the Germans were all about, Beethoven and all that form, very, very structured, counterpoint, the fugues and all that sort of thing. And this guy, Claude Debussy, goes to the World Fair, and he gets lost in the tents where that he's seeing the music of the gongs coming out of Asia, and it just blows his mind. When you look at the music that he had written before that experience, it was all very, European-centric, classical, structured, counterpoint. Everything had to be in its nice little thing. And then on the other side of that experience, it was almost like he just took a massive amount of psychedelics, and he comes up with La Mer and Reverie, and these things where that you're dealing with rhythm, polyrhythms going on between one hand and the other, which, by the way, is a challenge to play. But it's the tone difference, the tension and release of of harmonics and such. Whenever you have a clash of cultures like that, you get something that flowers that's absolutely astonishing. You know, like when you listen to the music of Paul Simon, before and after he made friends with his buddies in South Africa. You know, that how his own particular writing just flowers into all these new and unusual ways of expressing harmony and storytelling. So music is, unlike the perspective a lot of people have, particularly of classical music, where it's very, very rigid. And in a sense, there are some people that feel that way. Music itself is a very evolving process, where that even in music theory is more or less a way of justifying how to get the message across. It's a language. You're trying to stay ahead of the new innovations that various people do with tonality and rhythm. So every time you have these clash of cultures, a new flower opens. So I think it's marvelous. And I try to convey my delight and satisfaction of music when I'm teaching piano, so that when the people that are having their lesson, they hear something new, they become inspired to do something else. So
Yeah.
it's exciting.
No,
So
I mean,
I would, you know, it's almost, I have a weird personality where that I'm always resistant to try something new until I'm into it for about 5 minutes.
yeah.
And then that's all.
I'm the same way. You know, I think that's a pretty normal human condition. You know, I mean, a lot of performers, you know, they say, you know, going up on stage, you know, it's the same thing. You know, they have that stage fright or whatever, reluctance, and then, you know, a couple of minutes into it, and then something kicks in where, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, there has to be something before that, before it kicks in. I mean, obviously, you know, even though you know, from what you've said, it wasn't really something you wanted to get into, which your father said, hey, get into this. It seems, you know, probably something innate in you. I mean, your father was a teacher, so not
My
to,
mother was a teacher.
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, they say.
Yes, that is true. Well, I have I come from a long line of bullshit artists. You know,
Yeah.
my grandfather was the assistant attorney general of Illinois, and he was known for his long soliloquies. You know, borrowing great quotes from his favorite writers, and yeah, he was good at that. So yeah, there's a lot of people that I'm related to that just love telling stories and sharing knowledge and information.
Right.
So
Very good. Well, so that's the main thing, huh? Teaching piano.
well, I have not stopped making jewelry. I'm up to 430 some odd designs in my website, and I have a lot of private stuff that I do because of, you know, people who have little groups, you know, with either their church groups or their covens or whatever they're doing, and they like to have little pendants made for them. Um, one of the things I just finished doing, I'm always tinkering with things. Lately, I've been working on a project where that I'm combining astrological signs and weaving them together into a new glyph. I call them astro blends, but apparently, you know, that also applies to like half a dozen at least different companies that use the same term. So I don't know. But this couple saw me do an astro blend that matched between this couple that wanted to get married, so I made their wedding rings using that. I just did a
So that's a blend between two astrological signs.
yes, that would have been Cancer and Capricorn,
Okay.
and so I wove them together, and
I
I
It's
did
funny
rings
because I
with it.
just yeah, go on. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I was just tonight. I'm something I had done before, but experimenting again is, as you know, I use this AI tool for art, Midjourney, and it has the ability to blend images. And I've done blending between fractals that I've created, and yeah, it's just you mentioned this blending idea, and I love it. I mean, it actually goes back, I mean, like 30 years ago or more. You know, there was remember the Michael Jackson video where they did morphing between two different faces? Um, and to me, it's a really fascinating idea. Um, Anyhow, so go on. You're doing these pieces. To
Yeah,
me, that's
well,
really fascinating because to me, that's a very novel idea. I never heard anybody doing that. Yeah.
well, so far I think I'm the only one that's doing that. There's one project that I did about 30 years ago. A gentleman that's local here had a band called the Sea of Souls.
Mm.
And when he was in high school, he had designed this logo and had been then, which sounds familiar to me because I did the same thing when I was in high school. I made logos and such. And this logo for his band. And then I wound up making a pendant of that logo. And then he sold them, with his T-shirts and ball caps and such like that. And then he moved on with his life, and here it is, 30 years later, and he's pulling up his fan base, and it's a local band, so it's not like worldwide or anything. But a lot of his fan base said, "Hey, whatever happened to this pendant?" So he tracked me down and asked me if I could make some more. And those molds only last 10 years, so I actually had to go back and recarve, which is basically leading into another thing I'm doing now, which is I'm revisiting a lot of the designs that I had made in 20, 30, 40 years ago, and pulling out those molds and shooting them, and it's not working. So I have to then, do the best that I can and redo them, recarve them. And I realize that, and this is good news for me, that somehow or another I have become better at carving in 30 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
a
mean,
lot of
yeah.
my work I'm redoing. So at this point, which is harkening back to when you and I met uh, doing trucking, I was starting to do the Tarot series. And I initially thought I was going to be doing these big pendants of each of the Tarot pieces. But because I wanted to do the casters, which is, you do readings with a 1 inch version of it, I then just got really small and carved every single one of the major arcana of these 1 inch pieces. And one of the things Mom used to say is that when you get older, your eyes fail. So what you do is that you don't go smaller, you go bigger. And so with glee and laughter, I am now slowly remaking all of the Tarot pieces larger, but I'm still using a loop so that I can, get down and really see. So I'm putting in more and more detail in everything and rethinking a lot of the designs. So you probably see all this stuff on my website of the larger Tarot pieces. I just did that larger version of the Hierophant.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done one of the first one I did was the High Priestess and the Lovers, which are the two larger ones. And I'm about ready to launch into combining the Universe card and the Fool card, and it's going to be two-sided. So
those bigger pieces you're using, it's silver.
oh yeah, they're all silver.
So that's using a lot more material, right?
Yes, and the difference between then and now is then silver was $8 an ounce, and the last I checked, it was gone up to about 36,
Right.
$34 an ounce.
Right.
So
Sure.
it's a bigger investment, and
you have any silverware laying around? Any heirlooms?
well, unfortunately, the way this stuff works is that when you are buying silver, like in coins or silverware or something like that, it's not exactly the kind of material you want to recast, because there's a lot of materials in there that
right.
it doesn't cast well. You actually have to add clean metal into it in order to bring it back up, because it's supposed to be 0.925% pure to be sterling. And if you start throwing everything in the kitchen sink in there, it'll drop it down low enough, and then you get pock marks and so on, because of the tin and such will evaporate. It's a mess. So
well, it's part of the process, man.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the groovy process. Well, I have some these interview questions.
Okay.
And I developed these a long time ago, and so they might prove interesting. Let's see if I pull some of these up, find something appropriate here. Let's see here. Oh, there's so many. We only have to do a couple of these. Yeah, let's start with this one. What was the happiest moment of your life?
The happiest moment.
And you don't have to answer. If you want to pass, you can pass, or if you think it's interesting. The happiest moment of your life up to now.
Up till now. Huh.
Happy.
I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Let's go for another one here. I have a bunch, so no problem. Any of these.
Okay.
Who has been the biggest influence on your life? What lessons did that person teach you?
Okay, well, I'd say that would be my father. And he has been a guiding star for me for most of my life, or all of it actually. He has my gosh, he's been one of these individuals that say you have to teach by example, and the example that he brought was Arthurian, as far right makes might, and treating people with respect and kindness. You lead with logic. No matter how much you really want something to be true, you have to be careful about things like that, because your desire for it to be true is not necessarily the best litmus test on something that is true. And he has peppered everything, of course, being both a minister, which has a very doctrine backbone to it. But he's also was a philosopher. So his test on what's real or not real is very, very rigorous. And he had this beautiful way of listening and not discarding what other people are thinking or feeling, because he recognized the importance of all of that. Oh, my son Aaron is here.
Cool.
Hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, I was really more than happy to know that I got to know your father a little bit and met him a number of times. And
Yeah.
what a great. I mean, first time I met him, I mean, I knew what kind of guy he was, and his nature. He had just a very easy to know nature right away. I'm not surprised at that answer to that question.
Yeah, you met him, so you would know.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, some of these are difficult and easy, but you don't have to go so deep into it. But here's one. And we can phrase it two ways. What are the most important lessons you've learned in life, or what is the most important lesson you've learned in life? Either way.
Don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's see here. Okay, here's one. What is your earliest memory?
My earliest memory.
Yeah,
okay, it was in Houston, so I'm guessing I must have been about 2.5, maybe 3 years old, and we could probably get the exact date, mostly because it occurred while a major snowstorm hit in Houston, Texas. And I recall my father coming down the hallway with his arms full of poles and things in order to build a snowman. And in those days, Houston had no snow. There was no snow in Houston at that time. And we were all going to go build a snowman. And,
wow.
It was probably one of the most memorable of
incredible. Yeah. Wow, that's great. Let's see here. There's so many great questions here. How has your life been different than what you'd imagine? It's kind of a weird question, but you can try it.
How is my life different than what I had imagined?
I mean, I guess imagine for this question would be like, when you were younger, what did you imagine you would be like? It's kind of a weird question, but maybe you can try it.
Okay. Well, what has happened with me is that I have, throughout my life, gotten flashes of the future, and
that's good.
It's weird. I don't really understand how this works. I joke that I'm probably mildly precognizant, but what I have gotten throughout my entire life are flashes of scenery or people, places and things like that. So, for example, I had this flash that my parents' house was completely reconfigured. And I know this isn't exactly what you're asking for, because it's the direct opposite. And I thought it was just a really weird dream until I sat in this house one day and realized that this house is almost exactly the floor plan of the house that I grew up in California, only it's just slightly reconfigured. I had remembered that the fireplace in the den of my parents' house was actually sliding glass door, and that's what I got. I remember images of different things that are framed up in different ways, and then 20, 30, 40 years later, I see that. So I think what's happened with me is that I have not developed any kind of, oh gosh, someday I want this to happen or I want that to happen. It's more or less always been a one foot in front of the other. And then I just see the mileposts as I go by, like, oh, okay, I'm here now. So
Yeah.
it's not precognizant like, oh, this event or something would happen that I've been waiting for, but that's not what's happening.
Right. Very good. We're doing great on this. This is what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
I do have a time limit on this, at least
Okay.
tonight. So we got like 20 more minutes to go. And I think that makes it nice too, because it can go on for a long time. I got more, man. You're doing
All
great.
Right. Hit me.
Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, here's a good one. How would you like to be remembered? It's kind of like the epitaph.
Oh, how would I like to be remembered?
Yeah. Like if somebody did the obituary, or not the obituary, but I think more of the tombstone. Like I know Mel Blanc, his is, and I've seen a picture of it. It says, "That's all, folks," but that's not really how he wanted to be remembered. I mean, me, how would I like to be remembered? I mean, I can think of many things. So maybe you can think of a few things that that you would like to be remembered for. Kirk was, it's kind of a weird thing, exercise, but you can try.
What comes to mind for me is that great quote that Mark Twain said had on his tombstone, which is, "I'd rather be here than Philadelphia."
Okay. But, that's all right. I mean, that's the better question.
I don't know. Okay, how would I like to be remembered?
I mean, it's a weird question. I realize that. It's kind of like maybe
I would like to be remembered as a better person than I actually am.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I also think about, like, how would my children remember me? That would be for me.
I think it depends on the child.
yeah, maybe. I mean, I only have two.
Kids, I think, oh no, I wish they would just not remember me.
Yeah, I mean, I only have two. Yeah, I know Kirk. Actually, I know some of that, so I understand that response. All right, let's find another one here. We're doing great, man. This is exactly what I want. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, there's some of these questions are really outrageous. Let's see. Oh, I know. It's not on here, but it's a question that you asked that I love. When was the first time that what was it, Kirk? It was, when was the first time you realized you didn't know Russ McClay or something like that? I forget. Do you remember that? You were asking people. You were doing this, man. You were doing interviews. When was the first time you realized you didn't know, or you didn't know Russ McClay or something like that? It was pretty funny. That's not the question.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, here's one. I already know that. Let's see. Let's see. We're going through some really mundane ones here. Well, here's an easy one. When and where were you born?
April 2nd, 1957 at 9:35 in the evening in Houston, Texas.
No kidding. See, I didn't
My
know that.
doctor was a guy named Dr. Cole. He thought I was not going to live through the night. I had a blood clot in my brain that was
Whoa.
going to kill me. And
Whoa.
for some miraculous reason that nobody understands, the blood clot just dissolved. And the result was I lived. So,
Well, thank God for that.
well, okay.
Yeah, or thank the stars.
Yeah,
or,
they have no idea what happened. They thought for sure I was going to
well, see,
die.
I never knew that. I never knew you were born in Houston. Very interesting. I've been there, but yeah, you probably weren't there when I was there.
Okay.
All right.
We left at 4. So,
Let's see. What do we got here? Let's see. Some of these are. Oh, okay. Here's an easy one. What kind of? Okay, so aside from this little story, what kind of student were you?
horrible.
Horrible student.
Horrible student.
Yeah.
Horrible student.
In junior high, high school.
All of it.
So why? What means horrible? You didn't want to play the game, or you didn't, or I know you're intelligent, so it wouldn't be a matter of you did horrible in school because you got low grades. Because if that were true, that would have been my assumption is that would have been your choice or something.
Well, at the time, I had a very difficult issue, which was I would try to read, and when I would look at the letters, and this was also the problem I had with music too, is that when I would try to read the letters, the notes, when I was reading piano and stuff, everything moved. So it would take me a
when you say
time.
Sorry to interrupt, but now when you're saying horrible, it means that you were it's almost like you had a disability, and that's why you did horrible.
Well, it wasn't until I was I was out of high school for like 10 years or so. 10 years later, I was like 24 or 5 or 6, 7, somewhere in there. And the whole thing about dyslexia popped up, and I said, "Oh, okay, that makes sense now."
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Well, yeah, and I also learned about aphasia, which is a similar issue, and the way that I fixed it was that when I moved to Yosemite with my girlfriend, I always had a girlfriend. I moved to Yosemite with my girlfriend, and we didn't have television and radio or anything like that for entertainment. So we entertained each other by reading books aloud to each other. And the first attempt I had to read aloud, my girlfriend at the time said it was probably one of the most excruciating things she ever had to go through because it was slow. I couldn't pronounce what I was looking at. It was because the letters were constantly undulating, and I just plowed through it. I read the first 4 of the Dune books aloud, which is similar to probably reading the Urantia book out loud to somebody. And if the letters aren't holding still and the letters are really small, that gives you the idea of what I was up against.
That's very interesting.
And at the time, I was doing a little bit of the psychedelic stuff because it was the 70s, and I would say that the combination of the plowing through and rewriting the brain a little bit got me to the point where that now the letters basically hold still, mostly. Mostly, every now and then a letter will flip. And for years, when I was going down 91, the Riverside
Sure.
Way, imagine the first time I looked at a sign and I was able to decipher that the off ramp was to a street called Magnolia and not Mangolia.
Yeah, that's
And
very
everybody was
classic.
laughing at me when it says, "Yeah, you go up, you take the Mongolia, off
No,
ramp,"
that's
and
sounds
everybody
like
would laugh like I was telling them a joke, and I said, "No,
that's
it's
classic
Magnolia."
dyslexia for sure.
Yeah.
Classic.
So
Yeah,
it created a major problem because I wanted to read the Bhagavad Gita and
nice.
all those Indian names that are like this long. And how is it that you're going to pronounce it? And German was right out. I, every word in German is a compound word.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
yeah. So I was a very, very poor student in some regards, but in the case of learning music, what I wound up doing is I'd get right up on that sheet music and I would practically memorize it, measure for measure for measure. So everything I was doing right up until the time I was 17 or so was brute memory. And at this point now, I can sit down and sight read. Okay, I'll never be the best. I have too many old brain cells that are fighting me, but I've been able to overcome it for the most part. But that, like I said, it's just brute force.
That's very interesting. Actually, I know. Oh, years ago, I mean, communications with you in text, I noticed a lot of misspellings and things.
Yes.
However, I don't see, I don't know, in our more recent years, I don't see that as much, but.
Well, I have spelling check now.
Oh, okay. Right. Of course. Well, look, I got one more question and you can go on beyond that. After this question, this is, I hopefully recording. I don't know. I didn't check. I hope it's doing it. The plan is that, like I said, I have a time limit on it. So we got about another 5 minutes or so. I think it's good to have a limit. And then after the call, I want to put a couple labels on this video. I don't know if I'll do it tonight or tomorrow, and I'll send you a link to it. And my goal is I want to post it, but I want you to have a look at it first. And I just post on my YouTube channel, which gets hardly any, doesn't get a lot of traffic, but I think it's one of the ideas behind this is something Tim Leary talked about, which is creating a digital self. And what does that mean? Well, it means one of his ideas was that because it was just starting to happen like in the 90s for him, and he saw it as a way that you could, one of the ideas he had is that he would, before AI and stuff, he said you could talk to like a computer and the computer would ask you questions kind of like this, and then it would build up kind of a database of your responses so that your grandchildren, great grandchildren, they could access this database and say, well, where was grandpa born? Okay, kick that out. What was his greatest fear? It would kick that out. And beyond that, though, it also encompasses, anything digital that you do. So his idea, and an idea that I embrace, is this idea of creating a digital self that, what he was into, and I'm not really into, but he was into the idea of immortality of some sort. He even toyed with the idea of, he had signed up for it, where they freeze your brain and reanimate you, when they were able to decades later. I mean, cryogenics, they had the thing there, man. They were ready to decapitate him and put his head in there and all that, but the deal fell through. But his idea about the digital self is very realizable for anybody because,
Yeah.
you put your stuff out there. A lot of the stuff, like my YouTube videos, will probably last for quite a few years. I don't know. There's a lot of things I put out there that'll probably be out there for years. Some stuff won't be, but it's compare that to the old days where the family had their photo album, right? And then when the grandparents would ever pass away, that stuff, that's nobody keeps that, or even if they did, who the hell's going to see it? And it's gone. All the stories, all the photos, everything gone. So this kind of interview thing is kind of a way, a feeble way, but an interesting way to capture a few things. And, you post like this one, it's, not even quite an hour. You put it up there on YouTube, and, yesterday it didn't exist and today it does. So for my last question, do you believe in God?
It depends on how you define God.
Just go on.
All right. If I was going to give you an actual answer to that, then I would say that all of how we understand what everything is, and I know a lot of people like to use the term universe. I would say that the universe itself is sentient, and that consciousness in of itself is a lot like multiple cells within a body, and the body is the sum total of all those cells. So the sum total of everything that exists would be God, and just as we are not completely aware of every microbe in our bodies, I don't think that oversoul, so to speak, would be completely aware of everything. Is there a way that we can contact that, whatever it is? I'm not going to rule it out because that would be beyond me. But I would say that in some cases there are some people that have an ability to reach larger portions of it than others. But I'm not going to rule out anything.
Okay, well, let us lead to a related question, which would be, do you believe there's any kind of your consciousness, Kirk, that would go beyond death?
Well, with my relatively more recent experience of talking to my deceased wife, Tony, often, if that would occur with her, I don't see why it would not occur with me or anybody else.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
Now, I could be delusional, but
no, but that's
quote
that's
my deceased friend Isaac Bonowitz, I find comfort in my delusions.
No, I mean that's part of my own trip is this idea of faith, faith in things greater than what can be proved, and it's based on experiences that we have. So yeah, again, these are just questions. I don't have, it's answers are not right or wrong. They are what they are. Maybe
well, in the remaining couple of seconds.
Oh no, it's okay.
I want to introduce somebody.
It's not like the thing turns off on a timer.
You don't want me, Russ?
Excuse me?
No worries. Go ahead.
I want to see if there's anything else here. A lot of repetitive stuff. Okay, I think we're good on that. Yeah. Right. So, great, Kirk. I mean, how was this for you? It's okay?
So far, so good. I feel like I've incriminated myself a little bit.
Well, where did you do that? Your
Well,
marijuana
well,
bust? Huh?
yeah, that would probably be a.
Oh,
I
come
mean,
on, man.
that's fun. That's fun, I'm sure. But like I said, I teach piano to children, so
Yeah, but
if
that was
stuff like that is posted about me, then
well, we probably cut that out. It was a big deal, but I don't think it is. I remember getting busted one time only for pot and thrown in jail, but the case was thrown out. Very interesting story. Um, but yeah, back in the 70s, it was a big deal. Of
yep,
course, now where you are in California, it's completely legal,
yep.
medical, recreational,
Well, I'm
whatever.
in Virginia.
Oh, in Virginia, right,
I'm in Virginia, where that you cannot buy it, but you can have it,
right, right. So you can grow it if you want it.
and I do.
All right. Well, there you go. I don't think it's. Yeah, I think that the viewership
It's
here
only
is
a
not going to
matter of
be.
time. It's only a matter of time where that, and in particularly these days, I'm sure that it's not going to be too big of a deal, because it's more of a nice little anecdotal thing of somewhere that was so last century, so to
Yeah,
speak.
I mean, you're talking almost 50 years ago, man. Um, Great, Kirk. Thanks for doing this.
No worries.
And it was really,
Hopefully, good practice for you.
yeah, it is, and it's illustrative for sure of how easily you were able to connect with just a link. Um, so that's it, brother.
All
Um,
right, sir.
it's really great to connect, Kirk, and to see you. And you know, I'm really appreciative of our friendship that we've had for decades. And
Decades, yes, indeed.
peace and love, as Ringo says.
Be of good cheer, as
Be
my
of good
father would
cheer.
say.
I love it.
There you go.
All right. Take care, buddy.
All righty, dude. Talk to you later.
Bye. Talk
Bye.
to you.